Hi, everybody. It's Melanie, the Executive Director of the Pittsburgh Metropolitan Area Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and you're tuning in to our Latino Pittsburgh Digital Speaker Series. Thanks for being here. We have a really, really special guest today that I am extremely excited about. We have Arthur Garcia. He is the co-founder of Somos, and he is here to tell us all about it, as well as his background, how he got into it, and we're just going to have a great chat here for you today. We also have a discount coming, so stay tuned. Hello, Arthur. How are you?
Hey, Melanie. So great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yes, we are so happy to have you. I know we've been kind of friends for a little bit on Twitter, so I was excited to finally connect with you, like semi in real life.
Right. I think that due to the circumstances, I've gained a lot of Twitter friends over the past year and a half, and it's just becomes, just the comfort level is there to connect with people online across the country. And so thank you for posting about looking for stories, interesting companies that are out there in the market. And so definitely blessed and happy to be here to share a little bit more about our work at Somos.
Well, thank you so much. Let's dive right in. I would love to hear a little bit about your background first. So let's start with where are you from?
It's always great to start with origin stories, right? You know, if we think of ourselves as superheroes, it's like, all right, when did you get bit by that spider? where did that happen? So I identify as Mexican American. I am from Commerce City, Colorado. That's where I grew up, and went to school in Fort Collins. And for the past 17 years, I have been living in San Francisco. And from a very early age, I've been surrounded by entrepreneurs. My family had a restaurant when I was growing up. And before that, we had a taco truck. So this was at a time before food trucks or food truck parks were a popular thing. And it was just part of my childhood that I exposed me to small business, the challenges that small businesses face. And that kind of, made an impression, a mark on my life in terms of what I'm doing today. But as I mentioned, I identify as Mexican American. My father is from Zacatecas, a small ranchito called El Tepetate. And my mother is from Delicias, Chihuahua. So as I mentioned, my parents coming from that entrepreneurial background led me to naturally to a career in sales. And so I spent the first, I would say about 15 years of my career in sales, specifically in the accounting industry. So I spent a number of years at Paychex. Then I joined a small startup in San Francisco called Xero, which was an accounting software. I say small because at the time there was about 15 of us in the south of the market in San Francisco, making, with a plan on how we were going to enter the market and dominate and face a tough competitor into it. So that was a great experience for me. And that also led me to becoming the president and CEO of a company called ATAX, which was a national tax and accounting franchisor, and gained a lot of experience there in working with accountants, consulting accountants, and helping scale the business. Ultimately, we were acquired, and that led me to the opportunity and what I'm working on here today with Somos. So I'm still heavily involved in the accounting space. I was fortunate enough to be listed as one of the top 20 under 40 by CPA Practice Advisor 2 years. And, still thank you. So I still remain highly focused on the accounting industry. A few of my colleagues from Xero and I started a company called Contabi Alliance, which is an international association of accounting professionals across Latin America. So I'm very focused on there. So I'm left brain, right brain. So on the left side, maybe part of me is accounting focused, but on the other side is Somos, which, very happy to share with you today. So that's a short, maybe long story about how I got here, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not a geneticist, or a genealogist, but I did study history. I got a certificate in Chicano studies while studying at the Colorado State University. So that naturally led to a love, a passion for what we're doing with Somos. And ready to share some more with you today about Somos. So Somos is the first direct-to-consumer ancestry service for the Latino and Native American market. And our focus is on health. So in order for me to kind of give you an overview there's some pretty important parts. Number one is the problem that we're solving. So Latinos and Latinas, we represent over 10% of the global population at over 650 million. So 10%. And in the US, the Latino and Latina population is 60 million, which is about 16% of the population. Yet we're only represented in less than 1.2% of scientific research and data. So I think you would agree with me, Melanie, that is a problem.
Mm-hmm. Representation definitely matters. There are so many things, especially, now that we're seeing with COVID, Latinos were one of the groups hit the hardest. We were the group that was hit the hardest, right? And yeah, where is the medical research for that? If we're not represented, how do we know how our DNA is different and how things will affect us in a different way than other groups? I think it's so important.
Absolutely. And so because the data is there, it shows that the communities that were most impacted were the Latino Latina community, the Native Indigenous nation community, as well as the Black community. So when you sum all that up, now is the moment, now is the time for us to do something about that. And we're approaching it in a way that we believe is transparent, is fair, and it helps with privacy and kind of remove some of those concerns that people have about sharing their data. So our focus is health. Our intent is to build the Latino Latina genome, which doesn't exist, and also to build the largest Pan-American biobank. And the way we're going to do that is by creating a movement to where we feel like we have to do something, and it's going to take a community, it's going to take all of us together in order to achieve that. And one of the ways that we're building that, Melanie, is through Ancestry. So Ancestry is a genetic service that is one of the most impactful. And so we are the first in the market to be able to offer the highest resolution on the indigenous side. So if you, well, I guess I can start, Melanie. Have you ever taken an ancestry test before?
So I have not, but I have been with people who have done them when they were opening them, and it's fascinating.
It definitely is. I mean, I think ancestry is, it's important. For many, it answers, it's an existential question. Longing to know where your roots come from, where your family comes from is important. I mean, I think we've heard in order to know where you're going, you need to know where you come from. And so we have, over the past couple of years, my co-founders, who are both medical doctors, Federico and Christian, they met in medical school over 13 years ago. And so they've had a number of startups in the past with a focus on health. And one of the ways that we are able to do this and provide a deeper resolution is we've actually gone into these indigenous communities to build relationships with them, to build trust, transparency on the project so that they agree to participate. And then we're able to build a reference panel so that if an admix Latino or Latina, like myself, provide our saliva sample, then we can give you a high resolution on where your ancestry comes from, and with the names of the specific indigenous nations. So I think you've got a photo of mine, right?
Yes, I absolutely do. Let's pull it up. I think it's so cool that we're going to show yours. Here we are.
Yeah. So this is me. So I took the ancestry test myself, and we provide a global ancestry resolution as well. So we'll be able to tell you the breakdown of Eastern European, Southern European, Western European, Asia, Africa. So all Sephardic, Jewish, it's all included in our service, just like the other service providers. But this is one of the key differentiators for us, and where we can actually break down the part. If you've taken another test before, it's going to tell you that you've got native or indigenous DNA. And so this is what we do, is we further break it down. So here's mine, so you can see that, over 49% native to the Americas, with the majority of that coming from the Nawa Otami indigenous community. And
Oh, that is so neat. So this is really different. I mean, this really sets you apart from all of the other DNA kits. Am I wrong?
it does, absolutely. And one of the reasons, again, why we are able to provide this information is we've actually gone into the communities. My co-founders are in Mexico, and so they've been able to collect this data over time to build this reference panel. And we have a plan over the next 2 years to continue to expand that to include all 70 indigenous nations from Mexico, and then also expand into Central and South America. We do have some Andes and Amazonas that are represented through our service today, but we want to continue to add on that. So this is the first part here. So naturally, when you see something like this, you want to know more, right? You want to know, okay, great. So I have the highest resolution of Nahuatl Otami. So who were they? How did they live? What did they eat? What kind of music did they create? So there's a natural longing to know more. And so that is a beautiful moment that we believe that we can bring to our community of understanding more about who we are, because there's an educational component that has to happen as well, because you're not going to learn this stuff in school. And if you were to take a closer look at my DNA breakdown in my ancestry, you would also see Spain represented. You would also see that I've got 6% from Africa. So to understand, well, why and how do I have African descent? So if we take a look at history, we know that the Moors from Africa occupied Spain for over 700 years. Taking a closer look at also in Mexico, in Zacatecas, there's a silver mine there in La Bufa de Zacatecas. And so when the Spanish came in, the indigenous communities left. So naturally, the Spanish brought in African slaves. So, that's going to add to my story in my DNA, and something that I'm proud of. But one thing that we do not do is we don't give our users the rights to claim a nation, right? We if someone is looking to be, looking to take advantage, or for an angle to be opportunistic and say, great, well, if I take your test, now I can claim that I'm Native American. So that is something that we're very clear in our terms, conditions, that we do not give you the right to claim that. That is only something that the indigenous nations can grant.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's really fascinating. I never thought about it from that perspective. Is that something that you initially thought coming in, or did that come up somewhere that you ended up adding it to your terms?
Well, I think it's been common for a number of reasons. I think that's another reason why this hasn't been done before, is because these indigenous communities have been taken advantage of in the past. And, people are looking to, if they want to be opportunistic and say, great, now I can claim that I'm Native American on a scholarship application or for this grant, that's something you can't use our test to go and claim that. That's not what this is for.
Oh, that's really fascinating. Well, another question, how did you get into this? I know you were in finance, you went to school for finance, right? What led you down this path to DNA?
Great question. So as I mentioned previously, that when I joined a company and we were acquired, and this was back in July of 2019, around the March of 2020, when a lot of our lives changed, and I was looking for the next project, the next step in my career. And I met Federico and Christian, my two co-founders, and I just became increasingly interested in what they were doing, got to know them a little bit more. And because I had that background, as I mentioned, I studied history in undergrad, and I also got a certificate in ethnic studies. It brought something out of me that had always been there, but now it's like, great, now I can connect something from my past, connect my passion for my culture, my community, and really do something about it, right? So again, representation is key here. That's at the forefront of everything we do. Is we want to change and improve the healthcare for our community in the future, and the only way to do that is to do that together. So it's something that is mission driven. There's impact in what we're doing, and I think it's a special opportunity, and I'm blessed to be a part of it.
I love that statement. The only way to do that is to do that together. I feel like, there are things that we can do on our own, but we can never reach our full potential, and we can never reach, total success and thriving unless we do things as a team. And that's across the board. And I know that community and networking are really important to you. That togetherness has been really pivotal in your career. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I would say that being a part of a number of organizations and communities is important, but we decide on how involved we get. So if you are a part of, I know you're one of the leaders there at the Chamber of Commerce. If I look back throughout my career, it is the network that I built, and it's the level of involvement that I had with each of those networks and associations and community organizations that have helped propel me in my career, whether it was through business development and going back to partner and collaborate, or network, or connect people. I've always thought it was important to give and to connect people without asking for anything in return. So if I look back and I look at, okay, I was involved in a number of, I was a part of the Inroads internship program when I was in high school and in undergrad. I was part of a Latino fraternity, Sigma Lambda Beta, when I was in college. I did a lot of community service. I was the president of my local BNI chapter. I participated in Chamber of Commerce events when I was building my professional and growing my professional career. I was also fortunate enough to participate in the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative program when I was running the large accounting and tax company. And that has just opened up so many doors. And it's been great to be able to participate with a group of entrepreneurs that are looking to scale. And, that's a great program. If you want to find out more about that, you can go to lband.us to find out more information about that program, how to participate. And so, that's why I mention community and the importance of it, because it'll take care of your community and it'll take care of you. I mean, that's in the simplest terms that I can say. Be an active participant and take care of your community, and you'll be all right.
And I love that even, what you're doing kind of comes back to community in a sense, to be able to look and to see exactly where you break down and what communities your ancestors fell into. I think that it's so fascinating. And I know that we talked a little bit about why you broke it down to this, but you didn't share with us how. So how did you get this information? And for those of you who may be just tuning in or skipped around in the video, this is Arthur's results and where his ancestors are from.
Yes. So these are half of my results. As you can see, they're from the Americas at 49%. So the other percentage of the other resolution is going to be of European descent, as I mentioned, with the majority coming from Spain and Italy and France. So there's definitely part of me that is included there. But how did I get this? So at Somos, we've collected this information from these communities. And the way that you could get these results are, number one, we offer 2 services at Somos. So the first one is, if you have already taken a DNA ancestry test with another service provider, like 23andMe or Ancestry or MyHeritage, then you already have a raw data file. All you need to do is you can go to our site, and it's scrolling there at the bottom, and you can purchase our raw data service, and you can upload that raw data file, and then we'll reanalyze it to give you a deeper resolution on the portion that comes up as native to the Americas. So that's one of the ways that you can get this results. And luckily, I do have one of the kits here. The other service that we provide is an actual physical kit that we would send to you. So inside of this kit is a tube and instructions for you to follow. So you would provide us with a saliva sample. And in order to provide that, you would need to fast for 30 minutes. So no drinking water, nothing in the mouth for 30 minutes. And then you provide us with the saliva sample and then send it back to the lab, and we will analyze that for you. But one of the key things that's included in this that we haven't gotten to yet, Melanie, is the blockchain technology. So we've partnered with a company called genobank.io. The founder there is a great friend and an expert in cryptology, right? So in blockchain technology. And so included in this kit is a QR code. And by scanning that QR code with your phone, it's going to take you through a couple of prompts to create your bio NFT. So this is what Daniel Uribe, the founder of Genobank, has deemed the term a bio NFT. So one of the reasons why it's important for us to include that is we want to be stewards of the data. We want to give the users the rights and ownership of their data. And if you think of the way that folks describe NFTs, it's a non-fungible token. So that could be anything from like a video, a work of art. And if you think of your DNA like a bio artwork, right? It's beautiful, right? It's yours. There's one, it's unique. We're using blockchain to ensure that you maintain ownership and control, that it's secure and private to you. And we think that that's extremely important to what we're doing. And we know that it's one of the reasons why some people have opted not to take one of these tests in the past, is they're unsure of how it's going to be used, how many times it's going to be sold, etc. So by introducing that into our service, each one of our users owns their rights to that information and their data.
Wow, that is really fascinating. I know a lot of people have not taken these specifically because of that. So NFTs are really new to most people. I know you kind of just briefly explained, but do you want to go into a little more of the security and the value of that?
Yeah, well, I think the ultimate value is when you think of the things that you protect and secure. You protect your password to your email address, to your Facebook, to a number of things, and you can always change your password. Something can happen to that password; it can be compromised, etc. But we're talking about your DNA, and there's only one. And we want to make sure that it is, again, that you're able to protect it, that you're able to maintain ownership over that, and revoke access at any time. So as I mentioned, in the future, we're looking to develop therapeutics, pharma in the future using the data. And we're going to ask each of our users, do you want to participate in this study? Do you want to complete these surveys? And that's one of the ways that we're going to do it. And if you don't, then you have the right to remove access to that information to participate. But we believe that when people understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, why it's important for future generations, that they're going to want to participate and share their information. I mean, I think culturally, speaking for myself, my grandfather, Ramiro, he's 93 years old. He has beat cancer twice. He's beat COVID. And I don't know specifically the type of cancers that he's had. I think some culturally, it's like, okay, well, grandfather's, your abuelito's sick and we don't know what's wrong, but, we hope everything's going to be okay. Like, I want to know what types of diseases, I want to know what types of illnesses that I'm predisposed to, and I want to know what's in his DNA that can protect me as well, right? So I think once people understand the purpose behind why participating, and that's the word I'm going to use, if you participate in the Somos project and building and contributing to the largest Pan-American biobank, I think it's empowering. I think it's a sense of contributing to a solution, and that solution is our health for future generations.
I love that. And I think that is so amazing. Do you want to dive in a little more into what your plans are and how you specifically plan to use it to help? I know you gave us a little brief, but I think it's so fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. When we look at again, and I'm not a medical doctor. I often leave these questions for my co-founders, but if we were just to look at one disease that is largely impacts Latinos and Latinas, it's non-alcoholic liver disease. So if by contributing your DNA and participating in our research and study, if we were able to partner and develop some sort of medicine or therapeutic in the future just for this one disease, non-alcoholic liver disease, it's also known as NASH disease. Wow, like it's something that's prevalent in over 30% of Latinos and Latinas. So it's like that contribution, you providing your saliva sample through this kit, and then receiving ancestry information that is great to have. You're contributing to something bigger, and that's just one disease there, right? So there's so many others that are prevalent in our community, like diabetes, high blood pressure, hypertension, etc. So we're looking to tackle some of the most prevalent illnesses and diseases that impact our community and do something about it.
I love that. So I actually, while I was off screen, I was checking and I got some questions.
Okay.
One of which I would love to talk about right now. Someone was asking about the margin of error, and I know we've all seen these videos and heard these different things about, the validity of these different tests and things. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So you've heard the term before, numbers don't lie, or if you're a sports fan, you hear ball don't lie. So when you provide your sample, we're processing it and we're comparing it to the reference panel that we have, right, that we've built. And as I mentioned, there's 11 indigenous communities that are represented. So if you have been told by your abuelita and your tios that you were a Cherokee princess, or your great grandmother was a Cherokee princess, and you take our test and you're expecting to see that, you're not going to find it. So you might believe that, okay, there's an error here, but the reality is that that indigenous nation isn't represented in our reference panel at the moment. And I'm not staking the claim that it will be in the future, but we're looking to further expand and take a different approach on how we build our biobank and build the reference panels that we have. So another similar one is if you are from the Southwest US and you know that you are part of your family comes from the Yaqui nation, and you take the test and it comes up as something else. Well, it doesn't mean that the test is faulty or off. It just means that your DNA and the resolution is most likely and compared to the indigenous communities that we have. And in the future, we're going to have updates. So as we add more indigenous communities, those communities will be represented. So your percentages will change over time. And so that's just, I love that question because it's definitely something important to note, especially if you know in your knower that your family told you that this is where your family came from, and then you get something else. There might be a sense of disappointment, but there's also a sense of pride in knowing, part of it is also this, and I can't wait for Somos to continue to grow and expand. So that's why I'm going to tell my friends and family about it to participate, because in the more data we have, the more participants we have, the higher resolutions we will also have. And it also provides some historical context as well, Melanie. I mean, we know that the continent was populated north to south. So these indigenous communities moved north to south over time. The southern border wasn't always the southern border, right? We know that changed with the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. We know that states of Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, California were part of Mexico at one point. So just because you take our tests and you receive something that maybe, you weren't expecting, I would encourage you to accept that part of your ancestry or DNA and get excited about it, and for what else is going to come as we continue to expand. So hopefully that provides some context on what someone might expect.
That really does. So as you grow and as you get that data, how do people know as it's growing? Do they get notified?
Yes. So once someone takes our DNA test, or once they become a user, they have access to our platform. And so as we add more indigenous communities to our platform, you'll receive a notification of new updates. Just like when you have your iPhone or Android and there's a new update that you have to download, similar, we'll let you know when those updates are available. And we'll also continue to add features. So currently, today we're offering the Ancestry service as you see it, and you get a breakdown with some historical context. But in the future, we're looking to add health insights as well to our service, as well as other features and services that'll come. We don't have a family tree in our platform today, but that's coming. That's been a feature that's been requested. So if you've never taken a DNA test and you're taking ours and you're expecting to not only get these results, but find out who your primos are, or connect with other family members, that's not going to be available today. But it is something that we're definitely looking at, in development of adding in the future, as well as haplogroups and on the maternal side and maternal side, etc. So you're able to see that type of detail in the future.
So first of all, anyone who is super interested right now, I just want you to make sure you look at the ticker, because we are offering a discount today. Thank you so much, Arthur, for giving a 10% discount. So the code is right down below. But so for anyone who gets this, all of these features that you have coming down the pipeline, are these something that people will have to pay for again, or something that's included in what they've already purchased?
It's a very good question and a fair question. Today, we offer the Ancestry service, and so you either need to purchase the DNA kit. The updates will be included as we add more data to our platform. But as we begin to expand into health insights or additional features and services, there will be some, monthly subscription, etc., but only when there's added value. And that is something that I've learned working in a number of startups and SaaS type models, is when we add value to our users and it's tangible and it's making an impact, then that's allows us to continue to grow, add more features, hire more specialists to continue to make the platform even better. So that is something that we're thinking about in the future when it's appropriate.
So this is so cool. It's not just like a one-time thing where you just get your results and you're done. This is something that it grows, you learn more things over time, and eventually you might be able to learn about your health based on your DNA. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, things like what types of food to avoid, the type of diet that maybe you should try. So I mean, you might be bombarded with, try keto, try this type of diet, try Atkins, or try all these things, right? So there's a long list of them. So if you were able to use your genetic DNA to identify which type of diet or exercise or types of foods to avoid, that's valuable, especially if you know that in your genetic DNA, your family might be predisposed to some sort of illness in the future. So it allows our users to be proactive. And so those are features and added benefits that we're really excited to be able to add to our community.
Wow, DNA is really changing the future. That is so neat. I do want to know, so all of these things we're talking about, these health benefits, learning about our families, about our heritage, where does this information come from?
So the information about our heritage?
Yeah, how do you break it down so much? I've never seen this before. What did you figure out?
What did I figure out?
Well, your team, I just think that this is something that's never been tapped into before. So many of these things are so broad, and I think that it really sets you apart. So how did you guys come up with the data for this?
Yeah, well, my co-founder Federico, he, as I mentioned, he's a medical doctor, and Christian as well. And so they had worked in health. They worked in hospitals before. And they built a number of startups focused on health and in genetics and DNA. And so they really identified a problem that existed, is just that representation. And in order to do that, you need a lot of data. And so they started building the platform. My co-founder Federico was actually awarded 2 grants by the Mexican government in order to start building the platform, building the proprietary algorithms in order to start what we know today is Somos in that service. And so it's a combination of technology as well as relationships with the indigenous leaders of these communities. Because again, the only way to get this data is you have to go into the communities. You have to build relationships with the los gobernadores, the leaders of these communities, in order to partner and collaborate with them. And we take an approach that is fair and transparent. Number one, we go into these communities to build relationships, to meet with the leaders and identify what the needs are. And, sometimes people might think, well, they just want money. And, that's not the case. A lot of them are looking for PPE. They're looking for things like wheelchairs or mattresses or water purifiers, etc. So it's identifying what the needs are of the community and what we can do to help them, and also what we can do to protect their DNA and protect their privacy and their data for not only them in their community, because it's definitely something that's been exposed or taken advantage of in the future. And one of the things that I didn't mention, Melanie, was that we want to prevent, my co-founder Christian will love this, because he always uses this example, is we want to prevent digital colonialism. And what I mean by that is we're not looking to go into these communities, export their data, take advantage of it for a profit. It comes back to, again, they own their data, they own the rights to them, and that helps prevent that exploitation of getting it and taking it elsewhere to take advantage of that. So it's critical to what we do. But I hope that answers your question. Is, we actually go into these communities. We need DNA samples, which is going to be blood samples. We need to sequence them, and that's why I mentioned earlier is that we are building the Latino-Latina genome. And that's something that doesn't exist in data or science today. And where it does exist, it's definitely held by gatekeepers, if you will, that use it for certain purposes. But we want to make sure that we use the data.
Wow, that is so fascinating. I had no idea that you actually had to go and get DNA samples. That is so fascinating.
That's one of the things that is important. I mean, what we're doing is hard, right? I think even in our messaging, and we're looking to be really inclusive and fair, because I identify as Mexican American, but my neighbor might identify as Chicano, and some might identify as mestizo. Other people might be offended by that word, and other people are Latino. Some want to be identified as Latinx or Latina. And so that's one of the things, how can we be fair, inclusive of everyone that we're talking about? And we haven't even touched on our Afro-Latina or Latino brothers and sisters as well, as right, or even our Asian Latino or Latinas. We're a community, a culture that's beyond the Americas, that's beyond California, where I live, or even in Pennsylvania, where you are, Melanie. So I think it's something that we're cognizant of, we're aware of, and we want to make sure that everyone feels like this is for them in wanting to understand more about their history and their ancestry.
So tell me, I know you grew up very Latino, with culture very embedded. What do you think is the importance of people learning about their background and their culture through a test like this? Why should everyone get your test?
Well, you touched on something, and that made me remember, is the first time that I realized that I was really Mexican was when I went away to college at Colorado State. I grew up in Commerce City, Colorado, which had a high concentration of Hispanic Latino community. So I grew up listening to, Tigres del Norte, Los Temerarios, Ramon Ayala when I was growing up. But I didn't realize how special that was. I didn't realize that every weekend when my family got together for a bautizo, quinceañera, a wedding, a birthday, I have so many cousins. It's just like every weekend there's a family gathering. I didn't appreciate it. I didn't realize how precious and special that was to the traditions and culture that I grew up until I went away to university. where Latinos only made up less than 6% on the campus at Colorado State in Fort Collins. So that, your question reminded me of that experience of wanting to, turn up my music loud when I was listening to, my music and connect with the community there at college. So I think for me, I was blessed to be able to grow up in that environment, close to family. But I know that that's not the case for many others. I mean, I'm bilingual in both Spanish and English. My family moved back to Zacatecas for about a year when I was in 4th grade. So I learned to read and write in Spanish. But not everyone has that same access and that same experience. I mean, there's a segment of the population that are adoptees, or maybe grew up in a neighborhood or in a community that there weren't many other people that looked like them. Partnered with is Guate Roots, adoptees de Guatemala, and one of the founders there, Ben Fossen, kind of enlightened me on, when I go to the doctor and they ask me family medical history, I have that information. But someone who's adopted that doesn't know their biological parents may not have that information. So something like Somos can help connect an adoptee to their roots, but also provide them access to, providing them their health insights in the future with our service. And that's something that's valuable and impactful on the health side. But if we look at the culture side as well, or the language side, I mean, there's a number of Latinos and Latinas in the US that don't speak Spanish, that have never been to Mexico or been to Guatemala or been to their native country from, where their family's from. And so we're hoping that this is able to connect them, that piques their curiosity, brings appreciation and respect of where their ancestors come from. And we realize that we are all human, and genetically, Melanie, we're all humans are 99.9% alike. And it's that one small percentage that makes us different. And it's beautiful.
It is so beautiful. It is so beautiful. It's our differences, really, that make us so unique. I love something that you said earlier. It just reminded me, I always had felt like everyone was like me. This was me. This was normal. All families do this. All people are, this vibrant and love the loud music and everything. And it's so funny. I just want to tell you a quick little story. I went to a group called Colombia in Pittsburgh for the first time. I went to the first meeting and I was so happy. And I called my friend afterwards. I got in my car and she's like, "How was it?" And I was like, "It was so great." And I started crying. She was like, "Why are you crying if it was so great?" And I said, I never realized how different I was. But when I went and I sat in that room for the first time ever, I felt like I was in a group. I was at a table of 12 people and the 11 other people were like me. And I never experienced that before. I didn't know I was missing that. And of course I visited family in Colombia, but you're going to people who are like you in that case. And to just be in a room with a group of other people and feel so at home just because of not just because of our heritage, but largely, it was just so beautiful. It made me feel so great.
Absolutely. So those types of experiences, I think, many people have. And that's why I think oftentimes when we're at the table and we're the only one, or they might be another one, like, I don't know if you've ever felt this, but anytime I've been in any type of corporate setting and you see someone that looks like you, there's kind of like a nod of like, I see you, like, all right, we're going to have to talk, like, at the break, I want to know where you're from. I want to know about you. And so it's, there's a number of things that play into that. So we're bringing a number of things together. There's ancestry, there's history, not just local, not just national history, but continental history and global history that impact who we are and over time. So we're hoping that this kind of ignites that longing to know more information of, who we are and how things came to be.
Oh, I love that. Well, so this to me seems like an obvious thing. Like when we were diving into DNA and all these companies are doing this, it just seems to me like something that would be a natural route to go down. Why has this never been done before?
Well, there's big players in the company, and I mean big players in the market. And I mean one of the larger ones actually just IPO'd last week, I believe. 23andMe at about $3.5 billion in their IPO, and they've done great work. But I think that where we are different, and one of the things that we can offer is this is something that is built by Latinos for Latinos and Latinas, right? So there's certain things that we can do in our approach to the market that not other companies can do. And one of them is, again, access to this data. And there's reasons why other companies haven't been able to access this data. And, there's political and governmental issues that play into that. But now that we've began this process and have been able to share our approach with the different indigenous nations, we believe that more communities will be open to participating. And also, when I speak to folks that have never taken one of the other tests, one of the reasons they say is, well, I just didn't feel like it was for me. I didn't feel like it would tell me anything that I didn't already know, that a percentage of me is going to be from Europe and another percentage is going to be from, indigenous. And there isn't anything new there. There's no value. So I've never participated in that. And then there's also the other part is like, I'm not going to give a company my saliva, like me van a hacer brujerías or something like that, right? Like something like my grandma would say.
Yes.
Yeah. What are they going to do with that? So we're hoping to make it accessible. We're hoping that our vision and our mission connect with our community. And again, it's going to take a community. It's going to take a really a movement in order to gain that representation that we're looking for in science.
I love that. Made for Latinos by Latinos. That's an awesome statement. I got a question. I was checking my phone again, and someone wanted to know how the DNA is processed once they send their sample.
Good question. So once someone sends their DNA sample through this kit, there's a little tube in there, and it has a little red line. And again, I mentioned that you have to fast for 30 minutes and fill it with saliva only. And then there's a liquid called preservation buffer. You put that in there so it doesn't freeze, and so it's the sample is preserved. And our boxes already have a return label on them. So all you need to do is put them in the mail, and it'll get sent to our lab in San Diego. And that is where the lab will receive the sample and begin to process that. And in a number of weeks, once the lab receives it, then the results will be published to your profile on the Somos platform.
Very cool. Well, I wanted to ask you a few questions about entrepreneurship and what advice you have for other entrepreneurs. So 2 questions on that. One, how did you get started, and how did you decide to go from, corporate and finance to startups?
Well, very good question. The first thing I'll say is entrepreneurship is hard, and it's you have to really be passionate about what you're doing because it's going to be challenging. You have to think about your business every day when you wake up, when you go to bed, and you wake up thinking about your business, because no one else is going to have as much passion and care about the little details than you will about your business. Sometimes entrepreneurship can be lonely. And so there's a number of networks out there that have a lot of founders in them that are great. One of the networks that I'm a part of is called Garcia. So it's something that was just started as a community on Slack. And it's just great to have that support through the highs to share your wins, but also the lows, because it is challenging. So I truly believe that entrepreneurship is in my DNA. Again, because my parents were entrepreneurs. That's all they ever knew in the restaurant business, catering business. And so I think it was only natural that once I gained experience in the corporate world, that my path was going to lead to entrepreneurship. And it's been a challenge, I'm not going to lie. We're currently fundraising for Somos. So we're within the next month, we're going to be launching a crowdfunding campaign. So I'll be sure to share the details with you, Melanie. on that so we can get support, because we truly believe that what we're doing is mission driven, and we want to make sure that the community has an opportunity to invest also in what we're building. So that's one of the reasons why we've looked at doing a crowdfunding campaign. So I'll definitely share those details with you so that even if someone wants to participate. So I encourage anyone that's watching, if you want to get involved with Somos, we're working in communities, in these indigenous communities. If you want to participate, sponsor one of the projects, if you're looking to get an employee discount for your company, a number of reasons. So partnerships, that's something we're looking for, supporters and allies as we continue to expand. I would say, I know I kind of went off from the entrepreneurship question, but I knew in my heart when it was time to try something for myself, and having a community behind you as an entrepreneur is extremely important.
I think the way that you approached the question and circled back was a perfect example. Being an entrepreneur means you always have to be ready to take it to the next level, to pitch what's coming next, to make sure your audience is aware. I think that you're doing such a great job. I'm definitely glad to have you. But before we go, I want to ask you one more thing, specifically about entrepreneurship. What would you say to people who are, in a job, in a 9-to-5, they're very comfortable, they're making good money, they think that they want to make that step, they feel it, they have it in their DNA like you, but they're scared, especially, after the pandemic. I think there's more fear of starting a business than ever. What would you say to those people, and what advice do you have?
Well, again, I would ask those hard questions, and it can definitely be challenging if you don't have mentors, if you don't have people around you that can lift you up as you're building your business. But if you're looking at starting a business, don't spend months deciding what colors or what your logo is, or the design. You just have to go out there and talk to customers. If you've got a product or a service, find people that have a use for it, identify a problem, and have them use the service, give you feedback, and then begin to identify, is this a service or product that someone would pay for? So there's ways to do that while you're working, in your job, in your corporate position. There's ways to do that. So oftentimes they're called side hustles. I think most millennials have them. I think a lot of these creator platforms have allowed us the technology to be able to venture out and to create products and services or content out there. So there's ways to go about it, but taking that leap can be very scary, especially if you've got a family, if you've got a mortgage. You have to make sure that you've got the support of your significant other. In my case, my wife is a supporter. She's with me through the highs and lows, through the challenges, and you need that support system. And be prepared for the naysayers, for the people that are going to question, why you're leaving a comfortable golden handcuff job with benefits and a 401k and everything to try something out on your own. And if you fail, it's okay, but at least you tried. And if you fail at first, you can try again, you can pivot. There's a number of things you can do, but you really have to ask yourself those hard questions and then just find a fit. It's simple. If you've got a product or service, find people that can use it and find people that will pay you for it, and see how far that gets you.
That is great advice. I love that. Don't spend months picking your colors and your logo. You're so right. So many people think that that's the first step. If you don't have a viable product, you don't need a logo.
Right.
Oh, well, this has been so enlightening. I think we learned so many things. Just for a little rundown, we talked a little bit about you, your background, how you got into DNA, a ton about the product, how you're using NFTs to secure people's DNA, how you literally have to go into the communities to get DNA, and a little bit about entrepreneurship. So anyone who tuned in halfway or you skipped around in the video, if one of those things sounds really interesting to you, make sure you go back. But Arthur, tell us, what do you want everyone to leave with after hearing you today?
Well, I would encourage you to partner with Somos to support the mission and participate. So you can go to the website that's scrolling there on the bottom, and you can purchase a kit, or you can upload your DNA sample. And just know that there's a team, a company out there that is looking to transform healthcare and medicine for our community and for future generations. And I think now more than ever is the time to do so. We know that understanding more about our history, that's great, but we need to understand more about our health and be proactive in that. And Somos is a company that's looking to transform the space, and it's going to take all of us together. So I encourage you to check us out on the website, and we would love to have you join us and partner with us.
Thank you so much. If you guys are watching here live or coming back later, there are some links down in the comments, including the discount code. So I hope that everybody checks out Somos. And Arthur, I would really like to thank you again for joining us today. It was really a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Melanie.
Thank you. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in today. The Latino Pittsburgh Digital Speaker Series is an initiative of the Pittsburgh Metropolitan Area Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Its goals are to share relevant information, inspire growth, and foster opportunity. Speakers and workshops include community leaders and members, as well as other individuals and programs that have a positive impact not only on the Hispanic community, but the region at large. If you're looking for more information, be sure to visit www.pmahcc.org. If you'd like to become a speaker, email chamber@pmahcc.org. Hope to see you next week. Have a great day.